Okay. Okay. Hello to those joining us. I'm gonna wait a few minutes to see if a few more folks come into the room, and then we'll get started. I think I'll wait until we hit 7:01 at least to give folks a moment to join. And then yes, the session is being recorded. But we'll wait another moment and then we'll give it to 7:01, 7:02, and then we'll go ahead and get started talking about my favorite topic, which is scholarships. I'll give it one more second. But thank you to everyone who is joining us tonight. Really excited to present on this specific topic. Think I'll go ahead and get started now. So once again, thank you everyone who's joining us tonight. My name is Ray Gill, and I am one of the study abroad advisors over here on the West Coast. So I handle the areas of Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Hawaii. And I am super excited to be here with all of you tonight. I am, excited to talk about scholarships and about opening up opportunities to study abroad for our students. I didn't get the chance to study abroad when I was in high school or in college. The first time that I studied abroad, I actually moved abroad for a job. But if I could go back in time and, take advantage of an opportunity like this, I definitely would, because I've just seen just how impactful this has been, and honestly how this can open doors for our students. So thank you to everyone who is here and present tonight. So I would love to hear in the chat where everyone is, interested in traveling to. Um, Up here on the screen, you can see a map of all the locations where we offer study abroad programs. So for example, all those orange dots are where we offer programs for our high school summer abroad programs. And then green is our semester abroad destinations. And then for our early college students, we've got the purple gap year and blue first year abroad. So would love to see, some locations thrown in the chat where everyone is interested in going tonight. Okay, awesome. I see Japan, I see Morocco, Spain, Buenos Aires, Tokyo. Japan's a super popular location. I definitely want to go there myself. Tallinn, awesome. Sydney, Rennes, Berlin, Italy, Paris, Rome. Okay, okay. Looks like we got a good mix of places. Okay, awesome. Barcelona, Palma de Mallorca. I can definitely say firsthand, Palma de Mallorca is one of the most gorgeous places that I've ever been. So that's awesome. Um, okay, great. Well, really exciting to see so many different locations represented in the chat tonight. So before we get into the specific topic of scholarships, I want to talk a little bit about who is CIE, why do we do what we do, and why you guys should study abroad with us. So first and foremost, we are the oldest and largest nonprofit for study abroad in the U.S. So we have plenty of experience doing this sort of thing. We've been going for over 75 years now. And as such, we support over 40,000 students in their study abroad endeavors every single year. Um, we are also a mission-driven nonprofit organization, um, which I personally love and I'm very proud of. Um, and then, of course, the big topic tonight, scholarships. We also administer the largest scholarship fund for U.S. high school students. So every single year, we have lots of scholarship funds to give out, and we do have over $7 million in funds to spread. So getting right into it, diving right into it. So we do offer two types of scholarships. So first, I do want to mention that it is not obligatory to apply for a scholarship. This is definitely a conversation that should be had as a family about what is right for you and your student. But yeah, we offer two different types of scholarships, and they are both a very competitive process. In a typical year, about half of all applicants will receive a scholarship. So, I mean, definitely try. You never know unless you try. So, if you're interested in obtaining a scholarship, definitely, open up an application and get right into it. But as far as what these scholarships we offer, so first, we've got our Global Navigator Scholarship, which is also known as our Academic Merit and Financial Needs Scholarship. This scholarship can cover anywhere from $500 up to 100% of program tuition. Um, Now, some important information for the scholarship. You do have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident currently residing in the U.S. to apply for the scholarship. And in addition, you must be a freshman, sophomore, or junior. So unfortunately, seniors can't apply for the Global Navigator Scholarship, and I'll get into it in a moment, but you do have another scholarship you can apply for if you are a senior. Um, but really important for this scholarship is noting that 90% of the scholarship like funds that we have are for this Global Navigator Scholarship. They are reserved for our language and culture programs. So if you want to up your chances of getting a scholarship, make sure you are listing language and culture programs in your application. Students do select their top 3 program choices, so we highly recommend selecting at least 2 language and culture programs. Now, the second scholarship that we offer is our Academic Merit Award. This is a $500 scholarship. Anyone can apply. So this includes seniors as well as international students. Um, now, both scholarships are once in a high school career opportunity. This means that if you apply and receive one of these scholarships, you won't be able to apply for the same one the following year, but you could apply for the other scholarship. Um, Now, I do also want to mention that it's important to consider the things that are not included in the cost of tuition and therefore not covered by a scholarship. So, for example, the cost of flights is not included in tuition. And then if you don't currently have a passport and need to apply, or if you need a visa, these things are not covered by a scholarship since they're not included in the program tuition. So it is important to start planning early, discuss as a family, and come up with a financial plan. Now, what to expect when it comes to the scholarship application. So I mentioned that these are competitive scholarships. It is a competitive application process, so you want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. I always like to compare the scholarship application to a, college entrance application. You want to take it at that same level of seriousness and make sure that you are, writing thorough responses, making sure that your application looks good. So for example, what to expect with a scholarship application. So students do fill out a 3 short essay questions. So one recommendation that I have there is making sure that you are getting feedback on your essay responses. So this could be, for example, going to your teachers or counselors to have them look them over, or having friends also help you out with um, reviewing the essay responses. And then it's also good to note that you can, work on your essay in like a Google Doc and come back to it. So you don't have to get it out all in one go. You can definitely come back to your essay responses, but we want to make sure that you are having strong, thorough responses in answering every prompt in the every question in the essay prompt. Now, aside from that, students do also upload their transcripts. So, making sure that you're uploading transcripts and not, for example, um, a report card. Want to make sure it's an academic transcript. In addition, you're also having a teacher fill out a teacher recommendation. So if you haven't spoken with any of your teachers just yet, you definitely want to make sure you do. And then for all students, you guys are completing as well the terms and conditions. This is a legal guardian task. So for legal guardians in the audience, you want to make sure you're completing that for your student. For students in the audience, you want to make sure that you're talking to your legal guardians about filling this out for you. Now, if you are applying for the Global Navigator Scholarship, aka the Financial Need-Based Scholarship, you want to make sure that you are uploading the IRS 1040 forms. This can be from 2023 or 2024, but this is a necessary document for the Global Navigator Scholarship. So all of that is within the scholarship application and under your to-do list if you already have an account. So important dates to keep in mind. So if you are not applying for a scholarship or you are applying for the Academic Merit Award, admissions are on a rolling basis. So definitely important to submit your application as soon as possible. Now the next deadline, this says 11/1, but it's actually December 1st. So December 1st is the deadline to enter our free flight raffle. It's also the deadline for our early decision round for the Global Navigator Scholarship. So definitely make sure you get your application in by December 1st. You work on it over Thanksgiving break. And then In case you miss the December 1st deadline, the very last day to get your scholarship application in will be January 15th. So you want to make sure that you have January 15th marked big and red on your calendar. And then what to expect afterwards. All applications will be sent out for review, and then in late February, you guys will hear about the scholarship award. So you'll find out if you received a scholarship, how much of a scholarship, and for which program. So really exciting, but really important dates to keep in mind. Now, for those of us that don't have an application open just yet, here are the steps to start an application. So you want to go to myciee.org and create an account. After you create an account, you'll be selecting the type of scholarship you want to apply for. So whether it be no scholarship, the $500 merit award, or the Global Navigator Scholarship. Once again, important to talk as a family and consider what's going to work best for you, and then selecting your top program choices. So now I do want to dedicate some time to the Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, please make sure to drop them in the Q&A so we can go ahead and get those answered for you.
Okay, I'm seeing lots of questions come in, Ray.
Okay. Okay.
So let's see. Somebody is asking, how does early decision work? What would happen if we turn in our application before this deadline?
Okay, so if you already turned in your application, you are ahead of the game. I'm very proud of you. So basically, all applications that are in by December 1st will be sent off for the early decision round. If you, and this is for the Global Navigator Scholarship, by the way, so if you're the Global Navigator student, this is what that means for you. But scholarship applications will be sent out for review. Now, the top scoring applicants may get their awards early. So this could even be, for example, before winter break. Now, if you do not fall into that category of a top scoring applicant, your application will just be moved to our standard award timeline. So then you would just hear back in February. But it is a really good chance to, try to hear back early. But once again, we want to make sure that you are having a strong application. So only the strong applicants will hear back. So make sure that you are having those strong essay responses, talking to your teachers about getting a good recommendation, and presenting good grades. So yeah, that's a little bit about the early decision round.
Great. I also have a question. If we apply and don't get a scholarship, are we committed to attend the program?
No. So there is no commitment to attend the program at this stage. So, for example, when you submit an application, the only thing that is due is a $25 application fee. Now, once again, if you're applying for the Global Navigator Scholarship and you hear back later on down the line and you don't receive a scholarship amount that works for you, you can always decline. And if you're still eligible for the following year, you can apply again. So it is important to note that. But yeah, there is no commitment at this point. You'll have some time to talk it over once a year with your family as when you hear back from us.
Great. How will the 1040 affect the scholarship?
How will the 1040 affect the scholarship?
Yep.
Okay. So the 1040 is part of the financial need portion of the scholarship. So the 1040 decides the dollar amount of the scholarship. So For the Global Navigator Scholarship, it's both academic merit and financial need based. The academic merit portion of the scholarship basically decides if you will enter into the scholarship pool, and then the 1040 forms, those financial documents, decide the dollar amount of the scholarship you will receive or could receive.
I often say it's like kind of like FAFSA, right? So
Yeah,
it's like determining how much
yeah.
the IAE believes you can afford and how much you need to be able to participate in the program.
Mhm.
Let's see. How many scholarships can you apply for?
So you can only apply for one scholarship at a time. So once again, this is important to have that conversation with your family, figure out what works for you. Because if you are reliant on a scholarship to study abroad, then you want to make sure you're applying for the Global Navigator Scholarship. Now, if you have your heart set on one specific program, my recommendation is to go for the Merit Award, and we can, come up with like fundraising, and there's lots of information to share there. But you're only able to apply for one scholarship at a time.
If the student is in ninth grade, they can upload their eighth grade report card and first quarter grades, correct? Question.
Yes, correct. Correct, correct. So ninth graders, yes, you want to make sure you're uploading the eighth grade grades. And then if you have any in progress grades currently, or if you are planning to get the application done by the January 15th deadline, making sure you have those first semester or quarter grades.
What are the most important considerations when deciding whether a student will get a scholarship or not?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it is academic merit and financial need based. So you want to make sure that first and foremost, you're hitting all those merit tasks. So that includes a teacher recommendation, the 3 short essays, a transcript upload, GPA. So all that is taken into consideration. So you want to make sure that those conversations are had about what finances look like as well, though, because as we just mentioned previously, the 1040s, the financial documents, those are the decider of the dollar amount of the scholarship.
So I have a couple questions that are related. So I'm going to just
Sure.
ask if you can talk about kind of what happens when they choose their top three programs, and then when they're accepted into the scholarship, how does that go? Right? How does choosing the program go from there?
Yeah. So like when a student hears back in February, is that
Right.
the okay?
Yeah. So basically, they give three program choices. Um, do they then get to pick which program they go to, or how?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So you want to make sure first that your top 3 program choices genuinely are places that you want to go to, things that you're interested in studying, because you can be chosen for any of those three. And additionally, if you are choosing extremely popular programs, but we feel that you are still a good candidate for a program, we may choose you for a similar program. So, for example, if you're choosing programs all in Japan, but you have a background in Spanish or something, you could be chosen for a Spanish program. So when it comes to the program choices, making sure that you're selecting programs you do want to go on, and as far as how that selection process works, so that is decided by an external review board. They are looking at your whole entire application. So what you write in your essay responses, what your language experience is, what sort of classes you've taken, that all gets taken into consideration when selecting you for a program.
Um, can you talk about the other fees that the other costs, even if a family gets a full scholarship, what the
Yeah,
family
yeah.
will still have to pay?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Flights are not included in the program tuition, so that is a separate cost. Now, if your student doesn't have a passport and needs to apply for a passport, that is a cost in itself. If you are doing a program that requires a visa, for example, programs in China require a visa, that visa is its own cost. So those sorts of things are not included in the program and tuition and would be considered a separate cost. I also do want to mention pocket money. This is an important topic to cover too. Any pocket money that a student wants to bring, that is, up to the family. So once again, having conversations beforehand about what costs could look like, and setting up a budget for the student, that definitely is helpful for their time on program.
Um, and what is the typical cost of a trip without the scholarship?
Yeah, so that definitely varies. So with no scholarship, and by the way, for any program, you can go onto our webpage and find the program cost at the top of each specific webpage, for the programs. So when it comes to program costs, programs definitely vary quite widely. There's some programs that on the lower end, without any scholarship, they are around at the 4,000 mark, starting there. And then there's programs that can run to like 8,000, 9,000. So it really does also depend. So for example, if you are interested in like a multi-city program, you're visiting various countries, so that's going to be a more expensive program. And for example, cost of living is also taken into consideration. So our programs in, let's say, like Latin America, those are on the cheaper end. So like Yucatan, Mexico, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, those are programs that would be at that starting mark. So there is quite a variance in price point.
Um, Around how many applicants apply every year for the Global Navigator program and how many get a scholarship each year?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier in the presentation about half of all like students that are applying for the Global Navigator will receive it. Um, and yeah, as far as how many students, I'm not sure if you have that number, Brianna, but
Yeah, not sure. I think it was about 40% of our traveling cohort last year.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
So last year we had 3,601 travelers. So just a
yeah,
rough
about
idea there.
1,400.
Mhm.
But we give up to, I'm sorry if I missed this. I was looking at the questions, but we gave
Yeah,
$7 million last year.
yeah, $7 million.
Yeah. Um, so if you think about how many students that is, it's quite a lot.
Hmm.
Um, what programs require a visa?
Ooh, that's a good question. So China requires a visa. I believe Ghana requires a visa, and Australia requires a visa.
Wait. Um,
Oh, and this is specific to, I had you have to mention, this is specific to US citizens. So if you are not a US citizen, there does have to be some prior research done on the family's end to look into whether a visa is required for the place that you're visiting. So clarifying point there.
great. Um, are there any GPA requirements?
Yeah, so students should have a minimum of a 2.5 GPA to apply.
Um, do I need transcripts from my current school year as well as ones from last year?
Yes, yes. So, um, yeah, you need transcripts from all high school years. So it's a little different. Once again, we touched on this earlier. It's a little different if you're a freshman, but if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, we're going to want to see the prior academic years. So starting from your freshman year.
Um, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to confirm with you. Can you
Mhm.
apply if you are a green card holder?
Yes, that would be that would be like a permanent resident, so they could apply for the Global Navigator scholarship there if they're asking that.
Okay, then I misspoke on my last question. So then actually, let me go back to a question that I answered incorrectly. So what would
Okay.
somebody do that is a legal resident but has only been in the US for about 6 months and hasn't paid taxes yet?
Ooh, okay. So there is in the application portal if you go under the financial documents task, you will see a list of other acceptable financial documents. So you want to go ahead and click into that and see if your legal guardian has any of those documents on that list.
Mhm. Um, great. Um, um, somebody's asking the average wait time until you know if you have been considered for the scholarship. So the first round decisions will be coming out when, in December or January?
Yeah, so if students who make the December 1st deadline, if you are a top scoring applicant, you will hear back in December. If you are not a top scoring applicant, or if you missed the December 1st deadline and make it for the January 15th deadline, then they'll hear back in late February.
Mhm.
And
Um,
And then I did want to mention also, because this may be a student who was interested in the merit award, I do want to mention merit awards are on a rolling basis. So you can hear back within about a week or two, even about your application, and sooner for the merit award. So, important point to make there.
um, so beyond being above the required GPA, does GPA influence your ability or your likelihood of getting a scholarship? Meaning, would you have a better chance as the higher your GPA is?
So I want to say, yeah. If you have a high GPA, if you have good grades, that definitely is taken into consideration. It is really a combination of all those academic merit tasks, and once again, the financial, like need-based tasks. But yeah, you definitely become a stronger applicant if you are having good grades and presenting yourself as a strong applicant. Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure because this is the first time we're doing it if we have an answer to this question, but
Yeah.
how many applicants are considered top applicants for early decision?
Hmm. So that is a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer right now. Um, but yeah, early decision is something that we're doing this year. So not, I don't have the information currently.
Um, let me just try to. So where do we decide which scholarship to pick? Can you just explain that opening up the application and the type of applications?
Yeah. So when a student opens up an application, for the first step in the process is creating an account, and after that, once an account is created, there's a question asking, do you want to apply for a scholarship? Students will either select no scholarship, merit award, or global navigator. Now, whatever you pick changes the application task. So, for example, if you're currently applying for a merit award and you realize that you would rather apply for the Global Navigator Scholarship, you should be reaching out. You can, give us a call or email us, and we can drop that in the chat in a moment. Um, but you should be emailing us because changing the application is something that we need to do on our end as advisors.
Um, okay. Um, so can you explain what the teacher recommendation is going to look like? Um, because I have a question here about if the student should give a brag sheet, but ours isn't as involved as a
Yeah.
college recommendation, so I don't know if you want to talk.
Yeah. So I love the idea of a brag sheet. I definitely think that a student could provide the teacher with a brag sheet. It doesn't hurt. What the teacher recommendation looks like, essentially, the first half of it is like a drop-down menu selecting responses based on, what the student is like, how they are in their classes, what their character is like, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a small write-in portion. So if a teacher wants to write a bit more than just answering some multiple choice questions, they definitely can. So if you want to provide your teacher with a brag sheet, you definitely can, and they can, pick and choose from there on what they choose to write about. So yeah, I love that idea.
Um, so is a screenshot of a website portal transcript sufficient?
Depends. So does it, for example, contain your first and last name? Does it contain your GPA? Does it contain the high school you go to, all your grades? Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion between what a transcript looks like and what grades or in progress kind of looks like. So the easiest way to get your transcript, if you don't already know how to get it online, I would recommend checking in with your counselor since they will be able to, provide your transcript for you. So if there's any confusion there, you can just go ahead and go to your counselors.
Um, is the teacher recommendation done on the MyCIEE website?
Yes, teachers will have a My CIE portal to log into to complete the recommendation.
Um, I have a couple of questions about traveling. So about if accepted into the program, how do the students get to the country and how do they purchase their flight tickets?
Okay. Okay, so two good questions. So I'll start with flight tickets. So first and foremost, I want to make sure, um, please hold off on booking any flights until we let you guys know that you can book flights. We do have specific arrival and departure windows that we require of students. So we want to make sure that you are, meeting those windows since that's super important. But flights will be rolled out. Later down the line, there'll be a task map application. We work with a specific partner for flights. Their name is Flightfox, and they essentially handle the itineraries for all of our students. So you'll be working with a Flightfox agent to book your flights. Now, what logistically does a flight look like? Students do have two options when it comes to flights. You can either do a group chaperone flight or an individual flight. An individual flight is a good option for students who have quite a bit of experience traveling, and it usually tends to be a more direct flight. And then for students who may have a little bit less of experience or want to just meet the other students on program before the program gets, started officially, you could do a group chaperone flight where you would be meeting at a designated airport, and you'd be meeting that group of students as well as a CIE staff member who will chaperone the group on the international portion of the flight.
What are the financial income thresholds for the scholarship?
Yeah. So that's a good question. There is no income ceiling or income cap when it comes to the Global Navigator Scholarship. Now, I can say that there are applicants who are more likely to receive a higher scholarship percentage. So let's take an example of a family of four that earns, let's say, 30,000 or less per year. They're more likely to receive a scholarship of like an 80 to 90% coverage versus that same family of four with an income of 160,000 or more a year. They're more likely to receive like a 10 to 20% coverage. So no income cap, but there is a little bit of variety there with what the scholarship can cover.
Awesome. Um, can students hide their student ID numbers on their transcripts? It sounds like, so I looked it up. It's New York City has ID numbers for students, for all of the students in New York City.
Oh, wow.
With that number, maybe they should reach out to an EC in New York City.
Yes, so definitely I dropped in the chat CIE's phone number as well as our email. I recommend emailing that question so that it can be sent to your advisors in New York and they can let you know what will be specific to your area.
Um, I have a question about about the rubric,
Mhm.
and how we decide who is a top scoring applicant.
Okay. So I can't share anything about the rubric. I honestly don't have that information. Part of the reason is that as an advisor, we do, have to remain impartial. So I can't share anything about the rubric. But once again, a top scoring application or what I would call like just a good application. You want to make sure that you are writing through essay responses, that you are that every task is correct. I see it very often that students will upload something that is not really related to what the task is asking. So making sure that you're paying attention to the directions in the task. Um, and then, I always recommend having a conversation with your teacher, because if you tell your teacher what you're doing, so like why you're applying, what you're applying for, who we CIEE are, that gives them a lot more context and helps them answer a lot more thoroughly the teacher recommendation, which also does help too because yeah, we definitely would love to see like a whole little paragraph when it comes to teacher recommendations. So yeah, there's quite a bit that goes into it and just making sure that you're being thorough in what you're doing.
Um, do we have a GPA average for the GNS scholarship for people
Oh,
that
uh-huh.
usually receive?
So I don't believe we have an average. I mentioned earlier that there is a minimum to apply for the scholarship, so a 2.5 minimum, but I don't believe we have a number on what the GPA average is for our students who receive it.
Is there less of a chance of getting a scholarship if we apply after December 1st?
No. So no, there's not less of a chance. There's not less of a chance. Basically with the December 1st recommendation, you could hear a lot sooner about your scholarship application. So, instead of hearing back in February, you would hear back in December. And then once again, it's also the deadline for our raffle for our free flights. So it's, you don't lose anything by applying early.
Um, is it required to bring laptops on program?
So some programs will require laptops. Each program is ran a little differently. So for example, center staff runs their programs like each independently, you could say. So some programs, depending on what the program requirements are, you require a laptop, others don't necessarily. One program, for example, that I know a laptop is required is our video game design program in Japan. So every program looks a little different. But it is a lot easier when you do bring a laptop on program. I will say that because, for example, if you have to do assignments or like a Canvas course, it's a lot easier to do that on a laptop versus on your phone.
Um, My son and his best friend are doing the application, and I wanted to know if they select the same program and destination, will they be matched?
Okay, so um, they could be. They could be. For example, if both your son and the friend are doing the Academic Merit Award, then as I mentioned before, applications for that award on a rolling basis, meaning that students can confirm their spot on program. So if your son is and your son and their friend are both doing the same exact program in the same session, they may end up in the same classes. Now, it's a little different if they're, doing the Global Navigator Scholarship because once again, those are top three program choices. So there's a possibility that students may not end up in the same program. Um, but I also do want to mention with programs like this, a big part of it is just getting out of your bubble. So I think it's awesome when, friends want to apply together. But I think it's also important to have a conversation about, this is a program where there's students from all across the US. So it is an awesome opportunity to meet people who, you may have never had the chance otherwise.
Do transcripts need to be weighted or unweighted?
They could be either weighted or unweighted. There's no requirement there for what exactly the transcript needs to be. I would say weighted if you can. It helps.
Yeah. Um, uh, so somebody asked, you mentioned fundraising earlier.
Mhm.
What are some fundraising options? We also had a session on that earlier tonight that was recorded and that will be uploaded to YouTube. So you can definitely check that out next week, but I don't know if you want to speak to that, Ray.
Yeah, yeah. So my recommendation is definitely first and foremost go onto the website. We have a whole page on fundraising. So um, as Brianna said, make sure you watch that session from earlier tonight once it's uploaded to YouTube, but also go ahead and browse the website. We have a whole fundraising toolkit that I always highly recommend students take a look at. So there's a lot of ideas there for how to fundraise, how to get started. We also have a lot of video examples on our website with students who have fundraised in the past. So we've had students who have raised like $5,000, like large amounts through fundraising. So it definitely is possible.
Mhm. Um, so a follow-up to the weighted or unweighted. The unweighted is all classes, weighted are just core and language classes. So which one would
Okay.
be better? My inclination is to just say whichever one is higher, right?
Yeah, I would say whichever one is higher, because for example, on there's two tasks. So your transcripts, you're gonna want to make sure that it's all your classes, but for the academic details task, there's a section on GPA, so you could put your weighted GPA there. So
Mhm. Um, do you travel to a specific country depending on the program you're in? So I think that sounds like, for example, engineering, we only offer engineering in certain countries. So if you want to do engineering, you would have to go to Toulouse or to Berlin, um, or to Tokyo, right? Fashion,
yeah.
we only offer in Paris and Milan. I think that's what that question is asking.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add on to that. Yeah, each program is location specific.
Yeah. Um, okay. Um, so when is the best time to really submit an application? I would say the sooner the better.
Yeah, sooner the better, definitely.
Yes. Um, if we travel, where are we going to stay after we arrive to the country?
So Totally depends on what program, what kind of program you're doing. If you're doing a program with the homestay aspect, you're staying with your host family. If you're doing a program that's one of our topic programs, you could be staying in a hotel, hostel, or a dorm. So it really depends on what kind of program you're doing.
Mhm.
But I do want to mention center staff, once again, arrival windows, super important. We have specific arrival windows. Center staff picks up students during those arrival windows for the flights. So you will be met by center staff in country for pickup.
Yes, so our hotel's predetermined. Yes, everything is booked for you. Everything is all set
Yeah.
up. You go there and they will take you to your hotel.
Yeah.
Um, if we are hiring group leaders, yes, let me pull up the program leader page. Emily will
Oh,
be
that's
so
awesome.
happy. Um, we love program leaders. Here, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put this in the chat. So we look for educators or at least some people who have experience working with teens. Um, Preferably having knowledge of the destination and the culture of that country, language, but definitely worth looking into. Other accommodations for high school programs other than homestay. Yeah, like Ray said, there's
Yeah.
hostels, hotels, dorms. It depends on the program.
Yeah. And then if you're not interested in, or you really just don't want to do a homestay, consider a topic program, because all the language and culture programs are all going to be with host families. So
Are there programs that have a higher chance of acceptance or to get a scholarship?
so I want to talk a little bit about program capacity and program size as well as popularity. So for example, we have programs of varying sizes. So there's some programs that are on the smaller end with about 20-ish participants, while we have programs on the larger end with maybe 80 to 100 participants. So, program capacity does play into this as well as program popularity. There are some programs and locations that are extremely popular and therefore more competitive locations. So, off the top of my head, Tokyo, Kyoto, Barcelona, Madrid, Paris, those are all very popular locations. Therefore, they are very, it's competitive. So I love talking about the programs that, are a little bit more along the like road less traveled by or whatever. So, so for example, like Latin American programs like Mexico, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, or our programs in Africa like in Ghana or Cape Town. Those are good choices as well if you are worried about like getting a scholarship, but also securing a spot on program. So that is something to consider as well. Like if you are applying for very popular locations and you need a scholarship, it is it's something to consider as well. Um, and looking into those other program options.
And also remember, as Ray said at the beginning, 90% of our scholarship money is given to language programs. So
Yep.
you're much more likely to get a scholarship on a language program. 10% of 7 million is still $700,000. I was thinking about this after I finished last night's scholarship panel, right? So
Yeah.
remember that. That doesn't mean that it's impossible to get a scholarship for a topic program. We still give
Yeah.
$700,000 of scholarship for topic programs, but we give significantly more to language programs, and we do not give scholarship for multi-destination programs.
Yeah.
Uh,
We give an academic merit scholarship for
Academic,
the
yeah, right,
multi-study.
right.
Yeah.
No global navigation
So
scholarship.
yeah.
Um, how do you know if you qualify for honors programs? We also just did a panel on this, so also check that out next week. But right.
Yeah, so definitely check out that panel. But for honors programs, you do have to have at least 2 years of prior language experience. So for example, a lot of the honors programs, a lot of students will be heritage speakers, but there could be students who are in like AP Spanish or French or at those higher levels. I do also want to mention that we do language verification calls, so you can always schedule a call with one of us advanced speakers, and we can, figure out what language level, like whether we think you'll be eligible for an honors program or not. Um, and then, of course, stamp testing. You do a stamp evaluation, which also helps us figure out your language level before the program starts.
So, maximizing opportunities for scholarship, what are the 8, or can you name some of the least popular programs that would have a high probability for good scholarship? So where's there less competition?
So that's a good question. I'm gonna go back to one of our very first slides. I'm gonna go back to our map. I think the map is a good like representation. So like less popular programs or programs that I would recommend for someone who's really interested in getting a scholarship, I would point out like Yucatan, Buenos Aires. Those two are language and culture program locations. Um, let's see. So definitely like any of the programs in like Latin America. I mentioned our programs in Africa that are a little bit less, less popular. But I think that even if there is like an interest in, let's say, one of the European countries or in the programs we have over here in Asia, I do think that like it's not impossible to get a scholarship for a popular program. It's not impossible to be selected for a program. This all kind of builds up into having a strong scholarship application. So yeah, um, I think that's yeah.
And I'm not sure if you mentioned in Africa, there's the Arabic language
Yes,
program.
yes. Yeah, so we have Arabic language and then in Morocco, and then new for this year we have French
Fantastic.
language in Morocco. So those are other locations that I'd recommend.
So are students doing a topic program in a country like Spain or France required to have proficiency in that specific language?
Mm. Okay, so that's a good question. So uh, no, yes and no. So yes, if the program is ran in that language, for example, if you're doing fashion design in French, okay, yeah, you needed some background. But if you're doing the English version of a topic program, students don't have to have that prior experience with the language. We do have like you could call it like a survival course when students are on program. So they're not completely in the blind. They are taught a little bit about how to get around, how to ask for directions, how to order food, how to ask for the restroom, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of context given there, but there's not a requirement for the topic programs.
And the majority of the topic programs are in English. The
Yeah.
fashion in French and
Um,
marine ecosystem
yeah.
in Palma. I think those
Yeah.
are the 2 exceptions, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Um, does a certain amount of students come from each school?
Um, So, I mean, there's, for example, we have what we call our Global Navigator schools. So these are our partner schools. So, for example, with those kinds of schools, there is, they become Global Navigator schools because there are a certain amount of students that join us on our programs. But as I mentioned before, there's students from all across the US and additionally even, internationally who are doing our programs with us. So, yeah.
Do you recommend putting language and culture programs in your top 2 choices in order to increase, or just 2 of 3? So like if the top choice
Mhm.
is a topic program, should they put that topic program as number 1? and then have two language backups as 2 and 3?
So I would say that this is a personal choice. I do think I would recommend it. However, once again, this is I call it a personal choice because like you could get chosen for any of the three programs, and like I mentioned before, depending on what programs you're choosing, there may be some variance there. So I personally would recommend it for students, but I think however you want to order your program choices, that is up to you.
Can you remind us what the GPA requirement is?
Yes, so it's a minimum of a 2.5.
Um, we have one more question, but I actually want to talk to the student, give them a chance to talk. Maybe we can stay on, Pragna, to just
Okay.
understand this question a little bit better. But other than that, are there any other questions? Yeah.
Okay. And then I want to give a reminder that if any questions weren't answered, you can go ahead and give us a call or email us. I have dropped in the chat our phone number as well as our email address. So please feel free to reach out if any questions didn't get answered tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So maybe, Pragna, if you wanna unmute.
Yeah, can we allow to talk? Yeah, go ahead.
Let her talk.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, so I heard you said something about an advisor having to, open it on their end. However, I've
Yeah.
already opened both my merit scholarship and my is it the Global Navigator? But I chose to go with the merit because you said we have a higher chance to, get the selected program that we want through the merit base.
Mhm.
So I was kind of confused about that. Like, what did you mean by you guys having to do something on their end?
Yeah, so basically with having two applications open, it does mean that one of your applications is a duplicate application. So we want to make sure we get that duplicate application closed out. So you can go
Okay.
ahead and email the hsabroad@ciee.org email address. It's also in the
Mhm.
chat. And you can let them know you want to close out your Global Navigator Scholarship application, and they'll be able to find that incorrect one, close it out for you so we can make sure
Okay.
that we have the correct scholarship application open.
Okay. So why if I just submit my what merit base, isn't that enough though? Because that way I'm just turning in my merit base and the other one is just gonna like sit there.
So yes and no. I mean, on our end as advisors, it might cause a little confusion. I know I personally get a little confused when I see a few different applications open for a student.
Okay.
So I always want to make sure that I am looking at the correct application and reviewing the correct application. So it does make it a lot easier to have that like please close out this application. This is the correct one, so
Okay.
that there's not any mistakes there with the scholarship awarding or anything like that.
Okay, one more. If I were to like pay for the full like tuition and everything, am I guaranteed the spot or is it still that I have to go through the application process?
Yeah, so if you are doing like a direct enroll application with no scholarship, you do still fill out an application. It's just a lot it's a shorter application process. There's less questions to respond to, but yes, you do have it'll go to you in review. It'll get reviewed. If everything looks good, we move forward with accepting you, and you can confirm your spot on program.
Okay, so like you're 100% guaranteed the spot?
Yeah. So if, for example, I don't love to use the word 100% guaranteed. I
Oh,
would
okay.
say if there are no like red flags on your application, which speaking with you right now, you seem awesome. So
Mhm.
I would say you pretty much have a spot guaranteed, but yeah, I still want to make sure that everything looks correct on your application.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. That was all.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. I think we're alone.
Okay, stop recording.